Hi, everybody. I am David Butler.
I'm Emily Freeman.
Welcome. This is day 6 of a week-long Christ-centered Christmas celebration we're doing with LDS Living. We're so glad that you're here for your first time or you've been with us all week. We're looking at the stories and the people in the Nativity.
And today we are going to study the wise men.
All of them. You can't wait. Glad you're here.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. We are going to start with the wise men by turning to the Bible dictionary. So you'll want to go there either on your phone or in your scriptures. I love this description of the wise men that we find here. It says this: who these men were, we are not told, but it is certain they were not ordinary men. They were privileged to search out the Son of God. I love that thought, that it was a privilege for them to search out the Son of God. I wonder how often that is true for us, that it becomes a privilege for us to seek out and search out and come to know who Jesus Christ is. And we've talked a lot about this year that we have had the opportunity, because of Come Follow Me, to really have that privilege to search out who Jesus Christ was. When we learn about the wise men, they're actually not in Luke 2. You're going to want to turn to Matthew chapter 2, and that's where we hear this story of the wise men.
And let's say this about their story too. That, yesterday we did the story of the shepherds, and it's interesting that they're just doing their jobs out in the fields at night, and all of a sudden they have this beautiful spiritual experience, and on that very night they get to go and meet Jesus. And it's interesting that a lot of Bible scholars think it took several years for the wise men to get there. And isn't that interesting that sometimes our journeys to come closer to Christ can happen that fast? And sometimes they take years of searching.
That's so good.
And it's cool that it says it's a privilege, whether it happens right away or whether it takes a long time, it's a privilege all in the same.
Okay, so we're going to start reading about the wise men. In verse 8, it says this: and he sent them to Bethlehem and said, go and search diligently for the young child. And when you have found him, bring me word again, this is Herod, that I may come and worship him also.
Liar.
And when they heard the king, they departed. And lo, the star which they saw in the east went before them till it came and stood over where the young child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. And when they were come into the house, they saw the young child with Mary his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. And when they had opened their treasures, they presented unto him gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh.
And if you have not seen the video, the Christ Child video that you can find on churchofjesuschrist.org about the nativity story, this is seriously the best part in there. When
it
they
happens
present
clear
the
at the end.
And,
don't get impatient. Keep watching, because when they present the gifts,
it's such a great scene. It's so tender and sweet. Like, yeah.
Oh,
that was
you
a
just
spoiler
love it.
alert for it, but you have to go see it.
And then it makes this part so much more meaningful, because they have this tender moment, which now we can all imagine because we've seen it in the video. And then there is this moment where they have to decide what to do. Remember, Herod said, come back. As soon as you found the baby, come back. But I love this in verse 12. It says, and being warned of God in a dream that they should not return to Herod. And then here comes our favorite lesson of the wise men. They departed into their own country another way. There's so many lessons we love about the wise men. One is that they were privileged to search out and seek for the Savior. But the second lesson is one that we don't talk about very often, and it is my favorite one. After they came to know who Jesus Christ was, after they had that encounter with Jesus Christ, they were led to journey another way. It changed what they were doing in their life. That encounter with Christ had that big of a difference in their life.
You could even add these words in, that they search diligently for him. And when they actually find him, it says there's exceeding great joy. They fall down and they worship. All of those are just like experience words they had when they finally had this encounter with him. A couple of years ago, we got this invitation from the First Presidency and Quorum of the 12 about building our faith in God and in the Savior. And that year, it struck me. There was a line President Nelson said in the training, and he said, let's give sacrament meeting back to the Savior. And it triggered me to think that I want to learn everything I can about him. And so I did. I studied by myself. I studied with friends. I studied in groups. And that study took about a year. I studied diligently for the entire year. You have to know this first. I am such a picture snob that it took me forever to find a picture of Jesus to hang in my house.
And by
Like,
forever, he means years.
yeah, like I really didn't have it for a long time. I love Jesus. I just didn't have a picture of him in my house. And Jenny gave me coupons every Christmas and birthday to buy a picture of Jesus. And I never cashed them in because I just couldn't find the one that I liked. And at the end of that year, I was at Costco. At the Costco by my house, at Christmas time, they'll set up a little temporary display where they'll sell pictures of temples or the Savior or, just churchy pictures. And I was done shopping with a cart full of $7,000 worth of food. And I was going toward the front. And when I got to like the display, there was a picture of Christ on there that it just captured me. And I thought, where has this picture been? I've never seen it before, and it is so beautiful. This is the one. I'm buying this picture. And then I looked down the row, and the next picture and the next and the next all had that same impact on me. And I realized when I was there in Costco with my cart full that it wasn't the picture, it was me that had changed through that year of studying about him. And I saw him differently, and he meant something different for me, in that moment. It was the journey. That's what it was. Like, it was that year-long study and journey, learning about him, that he won me over. He won my heart. It was closer to him than it ever had been before.
I love the thought of that. It makes me think to myself, what will your journey look like this year? And what will my journey look like this year? And how will we come to know Christ differently? And then how will that enable us to journey a different way? When you're done talking about the wise men and the stories that you read in Matthew and the lessons that you learn, then you're going to want to take your wise man figures and you'll want to add them into your nativity scene.
The wise men exemplify the journey each of us take as we seek Jesus. They remind us that as we draw closer to him, we will be led to continue our journey a different way. So this is the invitation from the wise men, and it is simply to journey closer to Christ.
And you can choose to do that any way you want. As we talk about the tradition, we want you to think about the gifts that the wise men brought. I keep in my house a reminder of those 3 gifts that I can look at and think about. If we were to think about every one of those gifts, this is probably what we would learn. The gold that they were given, Mary and Joseph could have used for anything that they needed. It probably brought them a lot of joy just to know that they were going to be taken care of for a time. The frankincense would have been an incense that was used in the temple. It's what they would have used every time they said their prayers, and they believed that it helped their prayers reach heaven. And myrrh was an incense that everybody had in their house. It was needful. Everybody needed that. It was used for cleaning. It was used for burials. It just was something everybody had on hand. And as I think about those 3 things, it makes me think of 3 separate words: joyful, meaningful, and needful. As you talk as a family or with the people that you're gathered with and you think about your tradition for the wise men, we want you to think about how you might journey another way this year. Will it be something joyful? Will it be something meaningful? Will it be something needful? What do you need right now in your life? What's your heart calling you to? What does the Spirit draw you to? Just take a minute to think about what you learned from the wise men and how that might affect your journey as you move forward this year.
And maybe you can add one simple little extra thing into your life that will help you take that journey to come to know him a little bit better. Okay, y'all, this was day 6, which means tomorrow is Christmas Eve.
That's
and
so
we
fun.
are at the end of this week-long journey, and we are so thrilled to have the last day to be centered on Jesus, the night before we celebrate his birth, and we just can't wait to be with all of y'all tomorrow. So make sure you come back. We will see you then.
See you tomorrow.